Iron is so useful in Minecraft, whether it's early game or late game or mid game. You can use it as a building block, trading to villagers, minecarts and rails, pistons, anvils, trapdoors, of course hoppers, and even beacons. So with all the uses for iron, we should really have a good way to farm up some decent amounts of iron. And we could get the iron for all these things by mining or maybe by going to some villages and killing the golems that they have. And, we get a few of them, but we want to make sure that we get a bunch of iron. So let's get to it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another 3-level series. This one is going to be my 3 levels of iron farms. The way we're going to do that is by farming iron golems. So we are going to get into farms in a moment. Now, I do have 2 videos on my channel for this already. But first, we're going to go over the mechanics just real quick of how golems spawn. If you want to get more detailed information and more information about how to use the carpet mod features I'm going to use here, check out Nembomb's video on Iron Farm. I'm going to put a link down the video description as well. His Iron Farm design is very efficient on resources. We're going for 2 different themes here. The first theme is going to be easy to build. And then the final one, normally we go for that approaching OP, but since iron farms really are just stacked versions of certain modules, we're not going for approaching OP, we're going for having some fun. One other thing before we get into all the details about it, I know it's going to show up in the comments. Bedrock players, I am sorry, but this does not apply to the Bedrock edition. This is Java only. The Bedrock iron farms are pretty wonky, and I don't know why. But let's get into the explanation of how you can spawn iron golems. The primary way to spawn in golems is going to be through villagers. If I spawn in one villager here, I'm going to see these boxes around him. Now, this is not vanilla. This is, again, part of the carpet mod. I'm going to see a few things. First, I'm going to see some data over his head. Excuse me. Excuse me. So first thing we're going to see is the attempted, the slept, and the golem. So that first line there, the attempted, they attempt to spawn an iron golem every 100 game ticks. So every 100 game ticks, in other words, 5 seconds, they're going to check, are my conditions good to make a golem? And if so, I'm going to make a golem. First condition that needs to be met is they need to have slept recently. If a villager cannot sleep, he cannot reset that slept counter, and we can see it's red there, so especially since he's never slept, he will never make a golem. Next thing we can see is now that he has spotted a golem, we'll see that golem counter go, and that's going to be in 600 game ticks. So every time he spots a golem, and this will eventually reset. Nope, he just walked away from the golem. How about I put you in a hole and you play along? So his counter is going to start going down, and eventually he's going to recognize once again that he has a golem, and that's going to pop all the way back up to the 600 game ticks. And there, we just saw it happen there. So he cannot spawn a golem unless that golem counter that he's spotted a golem is down below 0. And you see that golem says that he is in range because he has that line pointing to the villager, so he's still visible to that villager. In order to not be in range, this golem needs to be outside this white box right here. So we can see that this is the golem detection range of that villager in that hole. Now that does extend also below him as well. In this case, we just have him underground, so that's why we're only seeing part of it. But if I was to put a villager all the way up here in this tower, we can see how big his actual detection box is. The next important box is this green one. We can see that that's labeled golem spawning. That is the range in which they can actually spawn a golem inside this green box. So they cannot spawn a golem out here, but they can detect a golem out here. Of course, a golem is going to need a spawnable block, so we cannot use something like glass, for instance. So our main goal is going to be to get those golems outside of this detection range box, because we want to make sure that that golem count goes from 600 straight to 0 so that we can spawn another golem as soon as that attempt counter goes down. Another important thing to note, this attempt will happen when a villager is panicking. So a villager can enter a panic state by being threatened by another mob, such as a zombie. And we can't see anything visual right now because he can't run anywhere. He just has that one block. But that guy is now panicked by this zombie. And so while he's in that panic state, every time that attempt ticks down to 0, he's going to attempt to make a golem. Again, as long as he has slept recently and as long as his golem count is at 0. However, you don't want the villager to stay panicked too long because A, they won't go to sleep in their bed ever then, and B, you need to block them off from their sight so they can get a break from panicking. If they're constantly panicking, then their rate of spawning golems is going to go down and down and down. So we can see now that he's slept recently, that attempt has turned yellow there, and what's going to happen is when he starts to panic, he's going to want to spawn golems. However, notice we didn't get a golem there, and that's because of another rule that they have. Their buddy detection. You see here, this is red because a villager, in order to spawn a golem, needs 3 other buddies. Actually, that's 3 total buddies, so 2 buddies and then himself. But we need that count to be 3 in order for him to spawn a golem. Then there also needs to be an area of solid blocks to spawn the golem on, of spawnable blocks. And now once they get scared, because they have all their conditions met, they're able to spawn a golem. Well, that's a problem. So to sum up, the conditions that we need in order to spawn a golem from a villager are we need 3 villagers, they need to have the ability to sleep, they need to be able to get panicked, they need to take a break from their panic, they need to not be seeing an active golem, and then they also need to have that attempt timer tick down. If they cannot find a valid spot to spawn a golem, they will not spawn a golem, and they'll try again on the next round. Once that golem gets moved out of range, their golem timers will go down to 0, and then they will be able to successfully spawn golems, again, once that ticks over while they're in the panic state. So that's all I'm going to cover for the mechanics of it. Again, if you want more details, go check out that Nembomb video where he runs through that carpet tool that I just used and talks about this even more in detail. But for now, we are going to get into the 3 level designs. These first 2 behind me, you may actually recognize because once again, I do have videos on these on my channel. So we're going to run through these real quick. This design is meant to be the level 1, so this is very early game. It uses all early game materials. There are no nether materials whatsoever, so all we have is some cobblestone. We don't even require a name tag on the zombie or any minecarts or anything. If you have a name tag, you can use it. Otherwise, you can just get a zombie who can hold an item. If a zombie can hold an item, such as some cobblestone in his hand, which this one cannot, only a certain percentage of them can. But if you walk up to zombies at night when they spawn in the overworld and just throw some cobblestone at them, you can see eventually one of them will pick it up. And it won't be that long eventually. Pretty good percentage of them can. Then we just have the golems spawning up here in the water, and then they get moved over to the lava. We are using, once again, all overworld materials, even though we have lava here, so we have a configuration here that won't burn the materials. This requires no iron to start out with, and this will get you about 300 iron per hour. One of the things I didn't include in that video, and perhaps I should have, that's my fault, is if you really want to upgrade this and start getting about 350, 360 iron per hour. And also I noticed some people commenting that this design right here, the way that the zombie is meant to give those villagers a break from their vision is when he walks behind this wall, then he wants to pathfind to another block and walk back. However, some server types, especially paper servers, that zombie can have a tendency to kind of get stuck in the corner and then stops producing. So this design here, we just have him on a minecart going back and forth so he doesn't have a choice where to go. And then we just have some stair blocks because those are not a solid block, so it won't suffocate him, just so that he doesn't get vision of the player and get distracted. This is great for early game because then you can start getting up that iron to make some of your tools, to make some of your hoppers that you need. Maybe you want to start joining some villagers to get some emeralds so you can get some of those resources. I usually build this on my hardcore worlds or in the first day of a server whenever a server starts up. It's a great one that you can have going for quite a while. However, pretty soon it gets time to upgrade, and that's where this level 2 one comes in. This is more of a mid-game one, mainly because, one, it's going to require more villagers, and it requires this different configuration. It's not as easy to get them into. I mean, it's easy if you just take the time, but that's the problem, is taking the time. You also notice this is not a zombie. Here we have a Vindicator. So you would need to either, find a mansion or find another pillager and pacify him, or get a raid started and pull this guy out of the raid, something like that. But the nice thing about pillagers, whether it's pillagers or vindicators, they have a longer range than a zombie, so they don't have to be right up next to the villager in order to panic them. So all of these guys in this cell right here get scared by this guy. As soon as we turn it on, he starts bobbing up and down, and so that action of him bobbing up and down breaks eyesight with the villagers and gives them a break, and then we start spawning golems. Golems all then get dropped into a water stream outside the detection box. As you can see here, all those detection boxes stop right before that platform of waterways. And we have these little spawning platforms here set up so that they are inside the villager's spawn radius, but they are outside as many of the other pods as possible. Now this design, this only produces about 1,000 iron per hour, and that's not perfectly ideal because ideally you want to push that up a little bit more. And so there are ways to get to that. However, you can see this is very resource light. Even though it's resource light though, that's, not always what you want. It may be efficient, but you just want a lot of iron. And that's where this bad boy comes in. For this level 3, I wanted to come up with something that was not only efficient and got us as many golems as possible, but was also fun. So I've actually been watching the guy 1604's Twitch channel, and he showed me his hardcore world where he has a shulker levitating creeper farm where shulker bullets levitate creepers up into a kill chamber, and then he kills them by redirecting gas balls at them. It's fun. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. So what are the rates of it? I don't know. It's yes fun per hour. That really got me wanting to resurrect an old project on my channel. There was a video I did a while back called the Gravel Golem Killer. It was a very complex machine. It required flying machines, and if you unloaded it improperly, the whole thing would break. And so that's why I wanted to reincorporate it this time. This design you see right here in the world download, this is 10 modules. So this is completely modular, and this gives you 14,000 iron per hour. I normally don't do this, but in the video description, I'm going to be including the schematic files in pieces. So if you are a person who uses Lightmatica, you can open up those pieces and look at how you want to build those. So there's the bottom portion, the kill chambers, and then there's the modules. Each module on this is going to be about 1,400 iron per hour, and that's why I wanted to keep this nice and clean. So what we see here is modules of villagers. So we have 12 villagers per module on each layer, 3 and 3 beds. And then we have a pillager here in the center. You can pacify this pillager if you want to, if you're worried about getting him into position safely. However, the range on this pillager, he cannot shoot at these villagers from this range, so that's why I didn't even pacify these guys. But you'll notice we have some slime structures standing on the outside. And like I said earlier, we want to make sure that we're getting golems outside of that detection range as fast as possible. So if I turn on that detection range, we can see this white stained glass that I've included as part of the schematic, which you don't need to build, by the way, it's just for reference, is the detection range of the golems. And so we need to get them from this spawn area here with these green spawn boxes to outside the edge of here. And what better way to do that than immediate slime launchers? So as soon as the golem spawns, he gone. Each of these platforms we got really lucky on. in that we can easily launch the golem just outside the golem spawn detection range. So once they're outside of there, we can take as long as we want to kill those golems. What we do is we have them all falling down into this area of water here, and we'll do the gravel kill chamber a little bit later in this video. But we have all these slime blocks that they can spawn on. So there are 2 rows of spawnable slime blocks for each villager pod, which means they have 24 spawnable spaces. So you get golem spawning almost every single cycle that they possibly can, but they are still getting moved outside of that area as fast as possible. The way that we're doing that is very simple. Luckily for us, when the game spawns in an iron golem, it's going to spawn it perfectly center on both the X and the Z, so at that 0.5, but it spawns him just above that top slime block. It doesn't actually spawn him directly at that 0. So we can give him enough momentum easily by pushing these blocks up and these blocks over, and the way we're doing that is just by using this tripwire hook. So as soon as he spawns, he sets off the tripwire, sets off the redstone, and shoots out the blocks. We're using leaves here to make sure that golems can't spawn up here, and then once this block shoots out, we don't want another golem spawning there, so we have these fence gates on top of it. We are using that because the fence gates have that thinner hitbox, so they're not extending all the way out. If we had leaves here, then this slime block would just come to the edge and we wouldn't be able to shoot him. And then just a piece of glowstone. This could be any light source that you want, just to make sure that we're having these blocks lit up so that we don't have things like, zombies and skeletons and creepers spawning on there. We also have an on-off switch because you can see that all these pillagers have their view blocked by those trap doors. And so if we come up to the top and turn this on, we get golems spawning all over the place. This is where the fun part comes in. So I have this machine here. I'm going to just show you real quick. This is also included in the world download. If you want to just kill them with lava, you don't want to have anything ridiculous, this is nice and easy to set up. You can just add some lava here, fill up this section, and just have all the water pushing it towards the sorters and the storage. That's fine. But that's not what I wanted to do. For those of you that don't know, gravel is a falling block. When it falls, it turns into an entity. So just like we're pushing around those iron golem entities, we can also push around the gravel blocks. So what I have here is I have this system that there's a gravel block tower going right through the middle of all these golems, and they're taking suffocation damage. Because those blocks, once they land, they become solid blocks instead of entities. And then they take suffocation damage in there. But then every once in a while, we get new golems coming in. We need them to drop down in there. So we suck out one of the blocks, we shoot it back out up to the top and down on top of the golems, where it turns into a block and the golems fall down as they go. Because we have solid gravel blocks there in that pillar, that means that we can use the waterway to push them around, but the gravel can fall through it. Just have the items come over here, over this little item batcher, because once again, these golems are usually going to come into batches. They have one filter for the iron ingots that are going into a shulker loader, and one filter for the poppies that in this case I'm just sending straight to composters. I've also included down in this world download the use of chunk loaders. So I have 2 chunk loaders on here, one here and one over here. So you could chunk load this iron farm if you really wanted. Otherwise, one of the benefits of this is it is a single dimension iron farm. We don't have to send them into the nether. There is no reason that you couldn't turn these slime block things into nether portals, except for I'm getting bored with nether portal stuff. Or you could do this without the chunk loaders and, like I said, build this in your spawn chunks. Now, once again, I was inspired to revisit this gravel killing project because the idea is we are not losing any efficiency whatsoever. We are still getting 100% of the drops. But we're doing it in kind of a fun way with some bragging rights. I did run this via tick warp for about 10 hours. I think it was just a little under, something like 9.5 hours ended up running. And I did not have any iron fall out the bottom. One thing to note is if you do want to extend this up and do more modules upwards, once again, you're going to be kind of limited by your build height. But if you want to build that all the way up to build height, make sure that you are accounting for that in your storage system, because this right here, we only have the 2 hoppers. So that's only going to count for up to a possible 18,000 items per hour. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, down in the video description, there's going to be some links. Check out the NetMod video if you want more details on how iron golem spawning works. There will also be the world download for what you saw here, where you can check out these different designs for yourself. And then there will also be Ligmatic files of this modular design here with the bottom kill chamber, one of the modules, and then just the top piece, which is basically just the on-off switch and the lightning rod, but still important to know for the iron golem detection radius, which once again is these white stained glass blocks, which don't need to be in there. This was just included to show you that little guide there. I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good one. Bye.